This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 21st day of June in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. Almost 2 years after his promise to conduct a commission of inquiry into the 2020 national elections, President Irfan Ali this afternoon named the 4-member commission. In a statement from his office, the president announced that non-resident Justice of Appeal for the Turks and Caicos Islands, Trinidadian retired Judge Stanley John, will serve as the chairman of the Commission of Inquiry. Justice John is the current chairman of the Public Service Appeal Board in Trinidad and Tobago and is a former member of the Ethics Committee of Cricket West Indies. The president also named the former Justice of Appeal of the Eastern Caribbean Court and former Attorney General of Belize, Godfrey Smith, as a member of the Commission of Inquiry. Mr. Smith has held several government ministerial positions in Belize over the years. The former Chief Elections Commissioner for India, Dr. S.Y. Kushrai, has also been named as a member of the Elections Commission of Inquiry. He served as the Chief Elections Commissioner in India for a number of years and is credited as the founder of the India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management. Rounding off the 4-member commission is former acting chancellor of Guyana, retired Chief Justice Carl Singh. Justice Singh retired as the acting chancellor in 2017 after serving in that position for 12 years. He was never confirmed as chancellor. He also served as a professor of law and head of the Department of Law at the University of Guyana from 2017 to 2019. The Office of the President did not release the terms of reference of the Commission of Inquiry, but indicated that a 2-member team has also been appointed to assist the Commission with its work. According to the statement, in the coming weeks, the intended commissioners and resource personnel will review the reports and documentation, set out modalities, and commence their work. The Commission will be expected to examine the work of the Guyana Elections Commission during the 2020 elections and the claims by the main political parties of alleged fraud and alleged rigging during the elections. More news coming up in just a moment.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
Doors and windows, Republic. Rooms and more, Republic. A brand new rug on the floor. Come to Republic, come to Republic. Whatever you need, you got it. Come through and get your mortgage. Live the dream with Republic.
95 to 100% financing, 50% waiver of negotiation fees, plus one lucky person gets their mortgage paid in full. Turn someday into today. Talk to Republic Bank about your low-cost mortgage today.
Get a chance to win a brand new Toyota Race when you apply for a home loan. Get pre-approved by applying online, in bank, or at the Building Expo. Apply now. Promotion ends July 24 and the drawing will take place on the final day of the International Building Expo. Here's your chance to win and drive home a Toyota Race. GBTI, we see Guyana through your eyes.
It was a long car ride home, and Kyla started to crave the all-natural Ripples Crunch. Ah yes, that was all she could think about. She thought she was dreaming, but it seemed so real. daydream or not, the craving still hit, and she couldn't wait to rip into it. Sunshine Snacks Ripples Chips. Rip into 100% real potato goodness.
Sunshine Snacks Ripples. Rip into real potato goodness.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Let's tell you now that with the government moving ahead with the Commission of Inquiry into the 2020 elections, Vice President Jagdeo declared this afternoon that his party, the People's Progressive Party, is not fearful of any inquiry.
The PPP has nothing to fear from such a Commission of Inquiry. We believe that the Commission of Inquiry will find that APNU, as we all know, sought to steal the elections. And this Commission of Inquiry shall be very uncomfortable to the same for the same people who are calling for the internal review, who have so boldly been calling for that.
The chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission ruled recently against conducting an internal review of the 2020 elections and the shortcomings of the Elections Commission and other related issues. The opposition-nominated members of the Elections Commission were pushing for the internal probe. Last week, President Finale announced his decision to proceed with the International Commission of Inquiry into the elections. He had promised to convene the COI during his inauguration speech to the nation in 2020. Today, Vice President Jagdeo said the government wanted to move forward.
And many times, this opposition, they misunderstand our desire to move forward as a country as somehow a weakness, and that we are consciously moving forward and ignoring a lot of things because we just want to remain positive and we want to move the country ahead and address the task at hand.
The Vice President slapped down claims that the PPP was involved in any attempts to change the outcome of the elections. He said all of the commentators who have been making those statements will get a chance to provide the evidence to the Commission of Inquiry when it gets down to its work. Fighting against the allegations made by a Chinese businessman that he accepts bribes to land government projects, Vice President Jagdeo today said his hands are clean, and the Chinese businessman who he considered a friend abused their friendship by making the claims. At a press conference at the office of the president today, Mr. Jagdeo said the US-based Vice News Agency failed in what he saw as an attempt by the news agency to tie him to corrupt activities in government. Mr. Jagdeo said even in the recorded conversation at his house by an undercover person working for Vice who posed as a Chinese investor, there was nothing said there that could prove that he was involved in any bribe taking.
Vice came into my house with the sole purpose of catching me engage in something illegal and taking a bribe, or the service fee that they call it. And you couldn't do that when in that moment, my most unguarded moment, because I didn't know I was being recorded. The guy could have easily turned to me in English and say, I have some money for you, so will you take it? So that is the key issue here. As I said before, they're never going to find anything of that nature.
In the Vice News story, the Chinese businessman Su Zhirong was secretly recorded telling the other man posing as the investor that he handles business for Mr. Jagdeo and that money would have to be paid to the vice president. The vice president has rejected the claims.
This arrangement here was to try to get me to say he will get an exclusive thing, license to. And I said, no, the law is, I deal with government side of things. The law is that anybody, that is the law, 150 rooms, anyone who builds a hotel would get the same thing. So Sue did not get anything special there. And it was not a government project we were describing, it was his investor he wanted me to meet. And the investor, who is now the reporter, was trying to get me to say I can be part of this deal, which I said no. And then he's trying to get exclusivity from the government for the casino license. And I said no.
Jagdeo said he believes the entire purpose of the report was to catch him in the act of bribe taking and tie that to relations between Guyana and China. Chinese businessman Su Zhirong rented a property from the vice president, but has not been seen at the property over the past few months. The vice president said he intends to evict him from the property and file legal charges against him as soon as he's able to locate him. Civil society group Article 13 today picketed outside the Ministry of Natural Resources, calling on the government to urgently look at the terms and conditions signed with the ExxonMobil company and its partners. One of the group's founders, Jagdeo, said the renegotiation of the contract for oil will benefit all Guyanese. From the picket line, Mr. Jagdeo said while he understands that ExxonMobil has its expenses to cover, he's particularly concerned that for 2021 the company earned over $300 billion, while Guyana made $85 billion.
Exxon not paying taxes, but in our books, Exxon has to record that it pays taxes. So what the minister does, it goes over to GRA and say, record this. This is the tax. And GRA has to issue a tax certificate for no taxes received, but has to issue a tax certificate.
Jagdeo believes the accounts of the oil company needs to be carefully examined.
So this contract needs to be renegotiated, not just because we want more money. Show me how many investors and how many Guyanese are operating without paying taxes, but more than anything else, receiving a tax certificate for taxes not paid. Right? The laws of Guyana does not allow this. So it is illegal, it is unconstitutional, it is bad in faith, bad in practice.
The civil society group wants the government to move with haste and renegotiate the contract if it wants to bring real benefits to the people of Guyana. Responding to the calls by the opposition for the vice president to step aside or be fired to allow a probe into the allegations of corruption leveled against him by a Chinese businessman, President Irfaan Ali today said that the vice president enjoys his full confidence. The president believes the vice president should also take legal action against the Vice News agency and the journalist who filed the report. In a message to News Source Guyana while departing for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, President Ali said the calls for the vice president to resign are rubbish and the opposition is trying to score political points. According to the president, there is not a shred of evidence for the greatest use of deception and secrecy to implicate the vice president in any wrongdoing. He said the attempts by the opposition leader Aubrey Norton to score what he sees as cheap political points on an issue are part of the desperation in light of the tremendous strides of the government, the president said. The opposition believes that there should be an independent international probe following the allegations made by the Chinese businessman in the undercover Vice News report. The president said he is more interested in looking after the welfare of citizens. According to President Ali, his government is focused on delivering a prosperous Guyana for all Guyanese. He said he's least interested in the sideshows and baseless targeting, adding that the vice president is pursuing the correct path with legal action, which he has advised should be extended to the Vice News network and the journalists, but that would be the call of the vice president. Vice President Jagdeo has indicated that he intends to take legal action against the Chinese businessman who made the claims and who is considered a close friend of his. The businessman rented a house from the vice president, just next door to his East Coast Demerara estate. In the Vice News investigation, the businessman led the undercover person posing as a Chinese investor to the home of the vice president, where a meeting took place with the vice president. The vice president has repeatedly indicated that the allegations against him are false. In wake of the Vice News report on the alleged involvement of Chinese businesses in corrupt activities here in Guyana, the Chinese ambassador to Guyana has dismissed the report as part of a smear campaign against Chinese companies. In a brief comment to reporters on Monday, the Chinese ambassador said relations between Guyana and China are good, and she sees the Vice News report as an effort to strain those relations.
The undercover journalist, they came with a predetermined agenda, and I think the purpose is clear. One of their purposes is to smear the Chinese companies here and attack the China-Guyana cooperation. And yes, yesterday we saw the video, and it's quite clear. It's cut and it's edited with malicious purpose. I can see.
Guyana and China will be celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relations this year. The Chinese government, through its various initiatives, has funded several major projects in Guyana over the years. The Vice News report also examined the influence of China in the Caribbean region, especially in countries like Guyana. Vice News is an American news agency that has been focusing on China's influence in the world. In its latest report titled Guyana for Sale, persons posing as undercover Chinese investors met and held discussions about investing in Guyana with other Chinese businessmen who are already here. One of the Chinese businessmen was recorded as saying that investors have to pay bribes to be guaranteed projects in the country. The Guyana government has dismissed that claim. The Chinese ambassador said the Chinese businesses that have been operating in Guyana have all been operating here legally.
The Chinese government and the embassy is always requiring, and we believe that Chinese companies here in Guyana, they are doing business following the local laws, international practice, and market rules. And they participated in the projects through open and fair competition.
The main opposition political parties in Guyana have issued a call for a full international probe to be conducted into the claims of bribery and corruption leveled against the Vice President of Guyana in the Vice News piece. The Vice President has denied the claims.
A liability certificate is typically requested when applying to other agencies for specific services offered, such as pension benefits, gratuity, small business bureau, firearm license, etc. Simply complete the liability application form and submit it to the liability desk at any GRA office. You must indicate the purpose of your application. You should receive your liability statement within 2 to 4 working days if there are no outstanding tax returns or taxes owed. Applying for a liability certificate is free of cost. GRA, your partner in development.
Get a chance to win a brand new Toyota Race when you apply for a home loan. Get pre-approved by applying online, in bank, or at the Building Expo. Apply now! Promotion ends July 24 and the drawing will take place on the final day of the International Building Expo. Here's your chance to win and drive home a Toyota Race. GBTI, we see Guyana through your eyes.
Whatever you need, you got it. Come through and get your mortgage. Live the dream with Republic.
95 to 100% financing, 50% waiver of negotiation fees, plus one lucky person gets their mortgage paid in full. Turn someday into today. Talk to Republic Bank about your low-cost mortgage today.
Get in the game with Buster. Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up, fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up, protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guyana Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guyana's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, in Ecuador, thousands of indigenous demonstrators marched to the capital, urging the president to agree to demands for economic and social support, the latest in a series of protests that have injured dozens and disrupted the economy. Amid a surge in the cost of living, the protest began last Monday with a list of 10 demands, including a fuel price cut, preventing further expansion of Ecuador's oil and mining industry, and more time for small and medium-sized farmers to pay off their debts. The president has called for dialogue and announced plans to help vulnerable sectors of the society. Protesters have said the efforts are insufficient. On Monday, the president expanded a state of exception decree, a special measure used in times of disturbances or natural disasters which affect public security. It was extended to 6 of Ecuador's 24 provinces from a previous 3. But the move came even as the National Assembly, where Lasso does not have majority support, was holding a session to try to strike down the initial state of exception decree. Groups of indigenous protesters began arriving in Quito from across Ecuador late on Sunday to take part in a march from the south of the city, shouting out "Lasso, out with the president," as other citizens cheered them on. Ecuador security personnel were out in force across the city, where in some areas protesters were burning tires and blocked roads. In Barbados, the Minister of Tourism and International Transport there, Lisa Cummins, has suggested that Singapore Airlines model be emulated to create a regional carrier and that a private-public sector partnership be used to fund it. She said during Monday's Barbados Tourism Marketing First Visit Barbados Industry Forum that in the absence of a national carrier as the island works on building out an aviation center of excellence, a regional airline is needed that is able to service all Caribbean destinations and then extend its services throughout the globe. Barbados Today reports that Cummins, who called for a high-level aviation industry, explained that Singapore Airlines began servicing 2 countries in Asia before eventually expanding its routes to international destinations. She said the Caribbean needs new innovation and it needs new investment to be able to expand on its capability, not just intra-regionally, but also globally. And finally tonight, international news. French President Emmanuel Macron has rejected a resignation offer from the Prime Minister he appointed, saying instead that the government must stay on task and act. Elizabeth Borne was criticized by some commentators after Mr. Macron's coalition lost its majority on Sunday. Her future looked under threat after the result, which left the president needing to secure support from rivals. He is set to meet his political opponents for rare talks today and tomorrow. But neither Marine Le Pen's far-right nor Jean-Luc's left-green alliance are keen to work with Mr. Macron's centrist government, which is 44 seats shy of a majority and desperately trying to avoid political paralysis. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.